Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 25th, 2021 meeting of the Bellingham Select Board. You rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, it's been about a month since we got together. We had our early January meeting deferred for lack of agenda, and looks like we got a pretty full agenda tonight. So at 7 o'clock, we start out with our town clerk, Larry Spizzato. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you. So, at some point last year, we had talked about the possibility of merging some of the building precincts so that we would have fewer. And I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of an update tonight to see if you have any questions or anything. The main reason for doing this is right now we have two, or I should talk about the fact that we have some issues here because we have two congressional districts in Bellingham, and CD2 is made up of precinct 5 and 4A. 4A is a really small precinct. In fact, there are 257 registered voters in that precinct, so it's very small. And but the problem is we have to wait for the 2020 federal census to be announced to see what the population is in the town and what the needs are for the congressional district. So we don't have those numbers yet. But I'd like to still talk about it because if in fact we can get rid of, become one again and have one district, one congressional district, that would be the ideal situation as far as I'm concerned. But be that as it may, even if we still have to have the congressional district and we still need the numbers, there really is no reason to combine, not to combine 4A with 5. So that it makes more sense because we have them all in one precinct, and we don't have to have the small precincts sort of on the side there. So I think that, that mainly what I wanted to talk about is combining 4A with 5 if we still need to keep CD2 in Bellingham, or if we can get rid of the CD2, then it would be better to fold it into precinct 4 because precinct 4 is underpopulated, because that's where most of it came from to begin with. So, and as far as that goes, I mean, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to keep track of this and so forth. But from a financial point of view, it would actually save a little bit of money too, because basically we could get rid of some of the expense of the police detail, and also we could have fewer poll workers. So I kind of calculated an estimate of the years when we have 2 state elections, we would save about $2,400–2,500. And the years when we have 4, it would be double that, or about $4,800. So which is, I think, helpful. But more importantly, it would enable us to have a spare voting machine. Right now, we don't have any spares. So in this past election, as I mentioned to you before, 2 machines were found on election day. And thankfully, I was able to get them back up. But if I weren't, we would have a big job with counting votes. So that's, I think, a big gain for us to have a spare machine. So basically, as I said, we have to really wait until the numbers come in from the census to know what the actual plan is. But I'm hopeful that we can either blend it into 5 or blend 4A.
Makes sense.
Mr. Chair, a question,
Please.
Larry, I was listening, having a hard time hearing tonight, the problem my ear. So,
I have this.
are you saying that we may, after census, be eliminating one of our congressional districts?
Well,
I wasn't quite clear the
okay.
point you were making there.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Right now we have 2 because
Right.
basically what happened, CD2 needed extra people. So they decided to carve part of Bellingham away from CD4 and put it in CD2.
Okay, that's
So
why.
they took all of precinct 5 and then they created this new precinct 4A. And as I said, 4A is very tiny. Most of it came out of 4. So 4 now is underpopulated. We have this tiny 4A.
So is there, after census, is there a chance that we'll have just one congressional district and
Could
not
happen
two?
because if there was an increase in CD2's population, they could go back to, move the line back over
Right.
and say that it ends
Okay.
at Blackstone.
Mhm. So what your recommendation is to roll 4A into 5? Or it all depends on how it all
It all
works
depends
out?
on how it turns out.
Okay.
No, I'd rather see it go into 4A because
4A.
4A would be then more comparable
makes
to the
sense.
other precincts.
So 4A could go into 4, 4A could go into 5,
Mhm.
and both 4A and 5 could roll into the congressional district 4.
That's to me the optimum.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's what I was
Like
trying
I
to
said, we don't know that.
get clarity on.
Yeah.
Okay, so sounds good. That makes sense when the time comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions from the board? I note that we have 3 members that are in attendance at the Arcane Room, and we are joined remotely by Cindy and Dan. Any questions? Dan or Cindy?
All set.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Right.
Well, when will we know? What's the timeline for knowing? Do you think?
It probably won't be until like the spring.
And we have no choice. This is just going to happen. Is that correct? Or is it,
Well, there's also pressure there, but we have to wait and see how it goes. All right, so quickly, my next thing is that I found out that we can, because we have a May election and May town meeting, we usually do 2 warrants, we can actually do them both in one warrant. And again, it's not going to save a lot of money, just a little bit of money as far as the constable goes, but it will make things a little bit easier. So we wouldn't have 2 warrants out there at the same time. So I'm just letting you know that that's what I plan to do for this May's election.
Okay.
And then Hillary's mentioned that you had some questions about the election, or you want to know?
just the timetable? I wasn't sure if this morning at the COVID meeting, when you got on, you were going to be talking about the election, because I know the previous time we spoke about the census, and you did cover that again this morning, too.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to remind people
Yep.
because some people evidently have never seen the census before.
So if you could for us, when will papers be pulled, and what's the
Okay.
election schedule?
So the date to take papers out, they begin on February 16th. They need to be in by March 16th, which is a 4-week period. You have until April 1st to withdraw without being on the ballot. The last day to register to vote is April 15th at 5 p.m. and the election is May 4th from noon to 8 p.m. at the high school gym. And I think I had sent you one of those. Didn't I see?
Yeah. But the noon to
Anybody else
8,
wants to just let me know.
is that what you envision going forward? The noon to 8 worked very well the last time?
And this time, we're going to have the mail-in component. And to what degree, I don't know at this stage. Unfortunately, when they changed the regulations, they only did it through March 31st. And election is in May. So I'm kind of going by what they have now, with what they have in place until March 31st, because I think it's probably going to be extended. And that provides for the mail-in, but also, and that's mail-in without an excuse, so it's not an absentee. And also they have an early voting piece in there as well. So, but I hear that after March 31st, it would be at the town clerk's discretion whether we had a early voting period or not. And I don't think we need one from our point of view, because they don't do that to us. Because they're allowing up to 2 weeks, which would be terrible.
Not for town election.
Mr. Chairman, quick question.
Yes.
Larry, so as far as the mail-in voting regulations go, is that still we're mailing out the request form for a mail-in ballot to all residents or all voters?
Well, that's basically, that has yet to be decided. And it's also not clear. I want to turn around and look at you, but you're over there, aren't you?
That's fine. I can see you.
Also, it's not clear as to who will be doing the mailing. Because for the presidential primary election, the state did the mailing, and we were not charged for it. They sent out postcards to everybody.
Mhm.
This time around, I think we would be responsible for the mailing. So again, it would be, considering the last two elections, I believe in 2019, it was less than 3% vote for the local. And I think last year was something like 5%. No, it was higher. It was 8% because they had the question. So, that's a lot of money to spend for very little insurance.
Yeah, and that was my point. If we have 10,000 registered voters and we have to mail them all out a request for a ballot form, and we're only going to get back 5%.
What we've done so far is mailed out, we've mailed out forms to the permanent absentee voters. There's only about 200 of them, because we have to do that every year. So, we have to start preparing for the election without the law actually having it set in place yet. So we may have to do some skirting towards the end, but I think it's going to be okay. Because I don't think we're going to have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be available, but I don't think we'll have to source it.
Very good. Appreciate you joining us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good
Have a good night.
Next up on our agenda is Mr. D. Martino. It looks like the first item is our annual required deficit spending for snow and ice. Just thing I want to make everybody.
It doesn't sound like Christine's voice, doesn't look like Christine's picture, but it says Christine on the screen. Doing this for the first time with my camera from home, it's working okay. Yeah, this is typical annually. Actually, we have not expended the money yet this year. We are, as we know, I have nothing else to say other than Mary had said it was time, and therefore I believe it's time.
Right.
Before you meet again, we may very likely have blown the budget, but we started this year with a very full salt shed, and it's just been, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to jinx it. The 2 inches forecast for tomorrow will turn into 2 feet if I say anything else. So.
Don't.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Selectmen authorize the town to deficit spend for snow and ice removal for fiscal year 2021 as per Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Spencer. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. 5-0. All right. Next up is order of taking for the town common 126-140 easement acquisitions. Don, I believe that's you as well.
Yep, we have the plans now with the full blessing of Mass DOT. Therefore, we are ready to proceed with the easement acquisition. We haven't got the construction plans with the full blessing, different department at Mass DOT, but we're literally expecting those almost any day, which will open the tide gates for putting the bid out, hopefully still awarding the bid sometime in March or very early April for construction to get going right away. It's been postponed, I think, mostly because of the staffing issues and the COVID issues as far as having Mass DOT people be at their offices, and it's not really all that easy to review plans on a PC. It takes a while to get used to doing that. They're sort of designed to be looked at in a global sense when you can have the whole thing, 3 feet wide by 2 feet in front of you, as opposed to on a fairly small screen and zooming in. So I'm sure that's been like a delay, and I haven't heard anything, but yep, thank you. When I submitting our quarterly report saying we have
Language-wise, is there anything we have to do with this, Dennis?
No, I think, Don, it's just a matter of the board signing the order of takings. It's all been approved previously.
Yeah, it's all the negotiations.
Don, you're a little light.
People were met and discussed. They got notice.
Don, we can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Any better?
Blame it on Christine.
I'm going to try to go out of. I'll take the headphones.
He's disconnecting himself.
Couldn't hear Larry. Can you hear me better?
No.
No.
Test 1, 2, 3.
I can hear him fine. That's weird.
It might be us. Jim.
He's- Yeah, it's soft, but I can hear him.
Yeah.
I've said anything important.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe talk loud, Don.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can you take out the buds?
Keeping it
This
simple.
is earbuds.
Land acquisition for the project in the center of town. It's, the residents were contacted, offers made. This is procedurally, you vote this order of taking, it will be recorded with the plan. And we'll be sending notices out to the residents who are taking easements and fee taking from, and tell them how and when to get their money. These are very, I want to say lucrative, they did well with the appraisals. The appraisals came in fairly high due to some issues, not issues, but business going on in the center of town as far as what things sold for. So I don't see us having much of any complaint. It's too bad we couldn't have been doing this when COVID was completely affecting everything and the traffic was so light, but and I want COVID to end and the traffic be back there, so it's a traffic crisis to get this done, but
So this is the final action. Town meeting has approved it, authorized it. All the appraisals have been done. We signed all the agreements with all the property owners, and this is the final action. And it would require a vote of the board to accept the orders of taking as presented and to sign off on them. And they were prepared, obviously, by KP Law.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the orders of taking as prepared by the DPW director.
I have
Second.
one quick question.
Yep, first and second, yep,
Yep,
discussion.
so the full amount for the damages, where is that paid out of?
That was appropriated, authorized at town meeting. Mary, how did we finally agree to
So there's two
On that.
funding components.
Okay,
Number one is an appropriation from town meeting, and the other part was the private partnership funding that we had on hand for the project.
but the total amount was upwards of $700,000.
yes, 694, 356.
Substantial.
Okay. So we have a first by Mr. Spence, second by Mr. Martinez. Discussion finished. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. All right. Is the traffic signal agreement just to authorize myself to sign that, Dennis?
Yes, and that is for the changes to the one in the center of town. So authorize the chairman to sign the traffic signal agreement. We, again, will be part of that project.
And that's just a short term. It's to do it and return it to the way it was, right?
Right, if you can hear me, it's puts the ownership.
No.
We can't hear you, Don.
You can't hear me?
But they are going to sign it.
No.
Just sign it.
All right, Don.
Just sign it.
So do we need a motion to send?
Yes, authorize you to sign. Make a motion for chairman to sign the traffic signal agreement with the state. With the state for Mass DOT for the town center project.
Second.
First and seconded, assuming no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, so we want to amend that for chairman and two members to sign that. You would know.
I'd like
Takes
to
forever.
amend my motion to include the chairman and two members to sign.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay,
And that's what you-
annual license renewals, we have two.
Just two common vic, you should have them.
Okay, a motion to renew the common vic license of Lao Thai Cafe at 52 Pulaski Boulevard and Veg M Restaurant at 799 South Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Spencer. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? You're in favor, right?
I'm in favor, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought
None?
that
5-0.
Really haven't that time of the year.
Vote on seasonal population, the always humorous annual task. Hillary, we are increasing by 500, so what will these numbers be? You know,
No, we can just, all we have to do when I send it to the ABCC is give them an estimate for the temporary increase in resident population. We're estimating that our residency is going to go up by 500 in the summer as of July 31st, July 10th.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, under the authority contained in Mass General Law, Chapter 138, subsection 17, as amended, our board at a meeting held on this date estimated the temporary increase of 500 as of July 10th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to accept that for the wonderful beach town of Bellingham, Massachusetts.
Second.
Second.
First and seconded. We had a discussion about this, Mr. Spencer. This has to be the campers that come to the north end of town.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
The resort, as we know, is,
Arthur.
Okay. Moving on, we have a generic
We got-
broad request from
We didn't vote
Outback
yet.
Steakhouse. Do you want to touch on this, Hillary? What's,
Sure, so they're just doing a change of directors, and what, they have so many locations that they basically send everything to the ABCC. There's no change in manager or anything, it's just their officers and directors. And the ABCC just requires that we approve it and send in a signature from you guys.
so entertain a motion to amend the officers and directors for Outback Steakhouse.
so moved.
So moved.
Just quick discussion. Did we vote on the seasonal population?
Yes.
We did.
Thought you were a yes. Did you?
I said
disagree?
aye. I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay.
So
Okay, all
first
those in
and second.
favor of Outback?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next up is the warrant. Hillary, do you have the dates or do we just?
We make a motion to open the annual town meeting warrant and close it as of February 26th at noon.
So moved.
First. We have a second from the TV. Mr. Martinez has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. 5-0 vote. Next up is abatement request.
Do you want me to take that?
Yes, please.
So the board received an email from a resident who was concerned, her neighbor who has since passed away, had some health and some mental health issues. They didn't realize that the utilities on the home were so far past due in arrears, and she asked us to look into it on behalf of his family, who would have to basically pay for everything now that he's passed. So I had kindly emailed her back and just said, we will take a look at it at our next meeting. Asked Dennis, we talked to Barbara and asked her to give us a rundown of everything that was substantially owed on the property. Also, after doing some more investigative work, there is a second family member that is listed as an owner on that property. It's already gone into liens. And this has been like 10 years worth of bills that have been outstanding on this property. So me personally, I'm not, we looked into it, but I'm not willing to go forward with an abatement on that where it's been 10 years in arrear. And there's already liens, from what I understand, we can't abate liens that are already on the property, correct?
Correct. It's already
Yes.
been leaned, so we
Yeah.
wouldn't have the ability to do it.
Yeah, but I feel okay now that we've thoroughly looked into it and gotten all the information.
I would entertain a motion to take no action on the request for the abatement at 73 Lakeview Ave.
So moved.
Second,
Unless you wanted to make the motion.
No.
I was waiting for you to.
nope,
Jump
that's,
in.
that's totally fine. Would the board want me to reach back out to Lynn? I'm happy to do that and just let her know that we discussed and we're gonna take no action on that request. It's
I
up to
think I
everyone.
would lean more toward having Hillary send something that way
Okay.
it's on
Yeah.
stationery.
That's fine. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just quick discussion. Just looking at
Losing
the
you.
printout. I'm sorry?
We didn't hear your opening comment.
Oh, I'm looking at the printout. So was it 10 years of unpaid of water bills, or was it
I think an
penalties
issue was,
do not?
I think the issue
Go
was
ahead.
a history that went back more than 10 years of delayed payments, not that they were in arrears that long, but
Okay,
it was not a recent trend to not make the
All right.
payment. And because I think it went back to 2006,
I was at 2007.
yeah, 2007. So,
all right, so it wasn't just penalties for the water meter
no.
situation.
And there
Okay.
is a second owner who could have stepped in and handled it.
All right, that's fine, thank you.
I didn't hear if does Cindy and Dan, for the record, just you're in favor of no action? Yes, no?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 5-0 vote. Vote on the December 21st minutes as written.
Make a motion to approve the December 7th minutes as written.
Second.
I will
First,
abstain.
second. Sorry,
Did I say the wrong date? I
You did,
really
okay, yeah.
can't, I can't hear.
Oh, okay, that's okay. You said so December 21st.
yeah. Okay.
Who seconded it?
I did, Cindy did, both of us did.
We missed the gift acceptance.
We'll get to that. Oh,
Okay.
all right, we'll get to that. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of December 21st, say aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Okay, 401. We have a request to record the gift from Rocky's Ace Tile Hardware. If anyone would like to read that motion? Or shall I?
I will. I move to accept the generous donation from Rocky's Ace Hardware to support materials, supplies, and either program for the Animal Control Department. Said funds to be under the direction of the Animal Control Officer.
Second?
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Just maybe we could send a thank you card or some
Yeah.
thank you to Rocky's for
Yeah,
this.
very,
Would be
very nice that,
We could all sign it, or maybe Gilbert could just have one, and just sign it for us.
Mhm.
Okay,
okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay, next up is December abatements.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to present the abatements for December 2020. The amounts as follows: capital improvement charge, $135, stormwater, $32.53, trash, $330.29, water, $38.61, for a grand total of $536.43. Nice small amount.
Yes, like those. Do we have a second?
Second.
Take your pick, Hillary. Whoever you get first.
Doesn't matter.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. 5-0 vote. Update on open positions for various boards and committees.
Just need to give a little update.
Please.
So I posted all the open positions on the website for January, along with the application. And then I also sent all the incumbent forms to all the individuals with expiring terms. We've received 3 new applicants. One for a planning board associate member, one for the conservation commission, and one for the historical commission. After discussion with Michael, I think we're gonna plan, and if it's okay with the board, we'll do any interviews that we need to do on February 22nd and March 1st. And then we'll make all the appointments on March 15th.
Yeah.
Okay with that?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Dan and Mary, and for the board, it was, it's a little awkward sometimes to have to make those decisions in front of everyone, but we still have to do it publicly. And if we can split a long night into 2 shorter nights of breaking out, so Hillary will determine who's coming in when. Obviously, we'll be Zooming with them, and we can prepare for that, and then collectively do everything at once in advance of the March 31st deadline. So we got ahead of it like we couldn't do with COVID last year. So, that'll work. Fiscal year 22 budget workshop, Mary?
We were looking at February 20th, which is a Saturday morning, which is typically what we do. We may end up Zooming people in. Probably we will end up Zooming people in. Might give us an opportunity to even invite more than we ordinarily. We have police, fire, DPW, library, a handful of departments, and then we go through the budget, but we could certainly have more on standby if the board would like. I know Mary has sent out, really those were the budget submittals from the departments. Mary and I have been meeting with the department heads the last few days, and we'll continue to do that, refine it. And I know Mary's shooting for the first week of February to get books out, which will be well ahead of where they usually are. Usually we get them about a week ahead of time, but she's determined to move that up a little bit.
What time would you want those on Saturday?
Usually we do 9 o'clock.
Okay.
We shoot for 9 to 12. We do 3 hours, and obviously we'd invite the finance committee, capital committee to join us virtually, and you know, any departments that you'd like to see other than, I'll send you a list of the ones that I know we're going to want to speak with, and we'll go from there. But if the 20th works for everyone, that's what we'll pencil in.
Not traveling anymore, so I'm around.
Good.
Just broadly, to ask the question, since the school department is having their budget discussions the 2 weekends before that, in what I read, we're level funding the school budget. So,
We're in communication with obviously Mr. Morano and Chairman Mr. Reed. We're actually going to be meeting with them next week. So we've had conversations, and we'll continue to have those conversations and make sure that, you know, what we present to you, we have an understanding where they're at. Typically, what we try to do is come to you know, as much of an agreement as we possibly can before it's presented to you. Were you concerned with the timing?
I was concerned that some departments had increases and that the school was level funded, so just there was some concerns that I've seen over the last several months of we had the override and where that ensuring that funding was in the budget, and it is for anyone watching.
Yeah, we're sensitive to that as well. We've had conversations with Mr. Morano, and we'll have a response for that.
Next up, town
Mary
admin.
whispering to me.
I just want to remind folks that our budget policy that went out and started this process was to request level funded budget.
Dennis, report, town administrator report.
Just to follow up on the budgets, we've been going through them. We had the governor's presentation last week, and the lieutenant governor talking about what to expect for the coming year. Right now, the numbers, it's early in the process, but they're optimistic that they're going to do everything they can to bring it in as close to level funding as possible. However, there are offsets that we face every year, which turn level funding from the state into a $200,000 or $300,000 cut once we see what the increases are in charter school, the reductions in charter school reimbursements, or increases in school choice and those types of things. So those are big hits. The unrestricted governmental aid is a very small part of the local aid that we get. The Chapter 7 is the biggest portion. So we probably won't see where that really comes out for at least a few months now until we see what happens with those offsets.
I had a brief discussion with Mr. Morano several weeks ago, and it was my understanding that although we've had a number of students opt for homeschooling under COVID, that we're not going to be penalized for that in this next cycle, and that it really is 2 years out before we'll know how the school department's going to get penalized for COVID.
Those are the types of things that are seeing is believing once we get the actual numbers in, because it just last year there was a lot of relief that state aid was going to be level funded, and then when we finally got the final numbers, we were down about $300,000, and our local aid was level funded, but the offsets had increased the charges that reduced the bottom line. So that's the tricky thing.
In his, talk, was there any insight as to what changes there could be? Another the attempt is for level funded, but were there any areas like to be concerned with, or we should be watching out for as a municipality? Can you give us any hint?
No, I mean, generally speaking, he's talking about the things that are important to us are, Chapter 7.
Yeah, okay.
unrestricted aid. So those are the big ticket items that everybody always holds their breath.
Right.
Wait and see what they're going to come in like. But as I say, we are a community. Last year we had about $3 million in offsets for school choice and charter school reimbursements, which is huge.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that's trending next year.
And we should actually have our first look at the state budget later this week.
Okay.
So the governor's budget is due out Wednesday, and they're anticipating that we'll have our first draft in our hand on Thursday. So I'll get that up to you guys.
We had our live cable access broadcast this morning, and one of our guests had some breaking news for us. Our state representative, Mike Soda, was on, and he was talking about what the governor spoke about later on in the day, and that is the vaccine rollout. So we're getting inundated with calls from residents who are concerned, anxious, am I missing something as far as when I can get my vaccine? But the way it looks, or the way it's been presented, is 75 and older, you'll be eligible to go and get your vaccine on Monday, this coming Monday. Now that is assuming that the vaccine is available. I'm told, or what I read, was that you'll actually be able to go on the state's website, and I went on it today and tried to register just to see how far it would go and how easy it was. It is very easy. You get to a point where they just tell you no appointments are available. But supposedly on Wednesday is when you will actually be able to go in and register. We put that link on our website, the information that came from the governor's office, Department of Public Health, to let everybody see what we're seeing and the information that's out there. It's on all the news broadcasts today. So 75 and older, February 1st, and then 65 and older, I believe it was February 15th, but you can go on the town's website, or you can just Google Massachusetts vaccine rollout. I'm sure you'll get all the information.
Is Josie doing anything special for the seniors over at the senior center, as far as getting the word out or helping them register, making them aware? That would be great if she could.
Absolutely, and we've got the outreach personnel there, so I know that she's been working on different scenarios and ways to assist. They are going back to full transportation. By full transportation, I mean taking people for things other than just their medical appointments. They're going to start that out later this week, I believe. So they're taking grocery shopping, but the van's still limited to 2 per vehicle. So and I guess the 12 per passenger vehicle, they can put 3 on that. So, but those are the types of things that we want to be sensitive to, getting people to their vaccinations if they have an appointment. So obviously there's a tremendous amount of interest. The Board of Health's been getting inundated with calls. We'd love to do, I know our Emergency Management Director, Deputy Chief Milo, and our Health Agent, Bruce Wilson, have been working on a plan to host vaccinations here for our residents. And when I went onto the map on the website that DPH has put out, Department of Public Health, there are communities that are hosting their own residents for vaccinations. I saw Norton, Canton. We have submitted, I talked to Chris Milo today. He still is optimistic that we're going to be able to do that. They did present to the school committee a couple of weeks ago. They've got, I think, a good plan together. It's going to take a lot of work. I know the concern is, will we have enough people available to do the vaccinations, to actually perform the vaccinations? He believes that they've got the volunteers necessary and the personnel necessary. So we'll see how that comes out, because that would be ideal, obviously, if we're able to host something here in our own community. So we'll wait to see how that comes out. But from what I saw, the nearest pharmacy, if you wanted to go to a pharmacy, is the Hannaford's in Uxbridge. And of course, Gillette Stadium will be hosting those vaccinations as well. First responders are done. Our police and fire received their first. Some have received their second vaccination. So we were really ahead of the game there, in that we were able to start probably 3 weeks before these regional sites. And that's because some good advanced work by the deputy chief and by Bruce Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, Dennis, real quick. As far as hosting the vaccines, do we have the infrastructure as far as the refrigeration units and stuff, or is that something we have to purchase? Because I know you got to keep them at one of those vaccinations. You got to keep down at like -degrees, right?
That's
So
right.
that's-
Yeah, the Moderna would be the only one that we would be able to utilize, and that is in their plan. They put together a fairly detailed plan. I can get copies out to the board, but yeah, that was one of the issues that they had. The other, of course, was making sure they had enough people to get the vaccine out. They want at least 8 individuals giving shots at a time.
Okay.
It'd be a drive-through type operation, but that was a big consideration. We wouldn't be able to do the Pfizer because it does require the dry ice or the,
In 6 hours, it's done.
right. Yep.
Thank you.
So we're waiting on that to see whether or not we would be allowed to do that. It would be a huge undertaking, but I think the residents of town obviously would appreciate something like that. That's all that I have.
I have one for new business.
Actually, if I could, we are open for business again. We were on a
Fantastic.
appointment-only type basis, and the doors were open last week, and we're happy to see faces in the building again besides our own.
Is there any old business before we get into new business? Seeing none. I just had a general question. I got a letter from William O'Donnell regarding the Community Preservation Act, as I'm sure you did. Just for clarity, I mean, the funding for that, does that just go into the general fund? Is it allocated for future projects? How do we have to use that?
It's something that we would actually have to adopt. That's telling you what we would receive if we wanted to put. Essentially, what it is it's something that would have to be voted. We brought it up for discussion in the past. It can be used for affordable housing. It can be used for open space preservation. It's essentially a 0.5% tax increase.
Well, you would adopt the percentage, it
Right.
could be up to 3%.
Yeah, because we essentially would raise so much, and that's what we would get matching from the registry. So
Potentially.
potentially.
Yeah,
right.
potentially, yeah.
They used to, when the program was launched years ago, it used to be a full 100% match. It's now down to about 17 or 18%.
Yeah.
Because so many communities have bought into the program.
Right.
So that the funding that's available through the registry has been.
But the kicker is taxes have to be increased.
It's a surcharge on. your
Surcharge,
tax.
right?
It's an additional surcharge.
Yeah, and it's limited what you can spend it on. You can spend it on affordable housing, open space preservation,
It's
historical preservation, and I don't know the full.
Not right now.
Or is it recreation?
Four categories. Recreation.
There's certainly some things we could use it for, but unfortunately, what's always been the deterrent is that if we want to have a tax increase, I suppose we should look at it for, as we did a year ago with the Proposition 2.5 for specific purposes.
Does anyone else have new business?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to put an issue here for discussion, and hopefully we can act on it maybe at our next meeting. With regards to liquor license fees for restaurants, obviously 2020 they didn't get to exercise the full benefit of their liquor licenses, and early on here in 2021, which they've already paid the full freight for, they're not obtaining the full benefit of having a liquor license. So one thing I'd like to consider and have the board consider is that the town rebates the fees that were paid by restaurants for their liquor licenses in an effort to kind of give some relief because of the obviously restrictions due to COVID here. As far as the number goes, I know I talked to Hillary. She had a kind of an overall number, but maybe if we could kind of pinpoint a number that restaurants that are in good standing with the town legally and or financially, I think those would be the best ones that we could target to be eligible for this this rebate. So it's something I want to bring up for discussion, and if we agree that it's a good idea, maybe we can act on it at our next meeting.
What type of information would the board be interested in relative to this? Because, Dan, since you and I talked, one thing that came to mind is perhaps the restaurants would have to document their impact, just similar. I mean, if they had 100,000 in liquor sales and this year they had 70 versus 15, whether we would consider that at all as a factor as opposed to painting a broad brush. Certainly they've been impacted, and it is questionable to pay for some service that you didn't get the benefit. But there's probably some other things as well besides the liquor license that may have applied to. And I don't know what those are. So as you and I talked about it, I think it's something to bring forward and gather information. But as we do that, what would we be looking for to validate the need?
Personally, I would think that, I mean, everyone I've ever talked to in the restaurant business is the food is not the money maker. It's the people in there that are, you know, the ability to mark up alcohol, I guess, that's where the profit margin is. And when it comes to a restaurant that's just serving food, the profit margin isn't there. So I would think that most, if not all, restaurants have been severely impacted by the restrictions of dine-in. Customers, you know, again, 2020, you know, budget-wise has come and gone. They paid their full liquor license back in 2020. They've certainly probably took a major impact because of the lack of liquor sales in 2020. And now, you know, paying the full freight in 2021. I know I don't want to go back and open, and I'm sure Mary doesn't want to go back and open books and try to do rebates from last fiscal year. So, I mean, it's a 2-year impact that I think if we can consider rebating this 1 year would be some relief. So that's kind of where I'm standing at this point.
I think it's a noble gesture. My only concern is, does this open up Pandora's box for other businesses that have been adversely affected by COVID, like bulk storage and different types of businesses that have to pay for permits that have also been impacted, not maybe directly because of liquor, but their business has been indirectly. And I think if we do something along these lines, and I feel for them terribly, I'm just concerned about how this is going to open up Pandora's box for other businesses or restaurants that don't serve alcohol. Say, hey, listen, you know, our business is down too. You know, we're down 25, we're down 40%. We're just not, because we don't sell liquor. Why are you, you know, taking them into account? We don't have a liquor license. It's unfair. So as much as I thought about this and did some reading, I just have a really hard time with just signaling out, or I'm just having a real problem with my ear tonight. So I can't talk. Singling out just restaurants with alcohol. I think all restaurants would be impacted.
Well, I think the answer to that would be that we're not rebating common vic licenses. So the restaurants that serve alcohol still pay their common vic fee. They've been selling food. The restaurants that don't sell alcohol pay their common vic license. So it's a completely different license as opposed to.
I understand, but it opens up Pandora's box. It's my concern. It's not that it's not a good idea. It's just, I'm just concerned of the trickle down effect it'll have across other businesses in this town.
I think the proper steps is, I think if we can have Mary vet what that impact would be, because if it's something that we ourselves can't bear, I mean, if we have to take money from somewhere else to refund it, it's one thing.
Yeah.
But Mary, if we can take a look at the impact, the scope of the situation, and if there's other things that someone may put in the same category, just taking a different look at it, and put it on our next agenda with the information available. You know, I think any idea that the board member wants to bring up should be considered and put it on the agenda, and we can flush it out publicly. The work, Dan?
Yeah, that's like you said. I just want to kind of, again, I had general numbers that Hillary had given to me just based on a broad brush, but obviously there should be factors in. If somebody owes the town money, we shouldn't be giving them a rebate. So just as far as as far as standing in the town legally and or financially, if they are good, then they're good. If they're behind, then maybe if they do get a rebate, it goes towards maybe back taxes or something to that effect, but not a check in their pocket, I should say.
I would defer to Mary with this question in that our next meeting is the first Monday in April. Is that enough? February? Sorry. Right. Is that enough time to gather information, and would we rather be better to put it off till the second meeting in February? Not April. So that you have time, because your priority is the budget.
My goal, I would prefer if we could put it off to the second meeting, only because I want to get the budget books done for you guys for Monday. So that's the focus my attention on that.
Right. So work for everyone that it would be on the second select board meeting in February.
Sure.
Very good, thank you. Any other new business? Okay. Seeing that we have an executive session scheduled.
Do have a request for an executive session to discuss purchase of the land. I'd like to ask the board to adjourn to executive session to hear a proposal relative to the purchase of land, and there'll be nothing further coming out as far as public discussion following that.
Hillary, can you poll the board?
I can get time.
Yes.
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 Did she say me?
Yes.
Yes.
With
I'm
that,
leaning close to the computer even though I have headphones in.
We're going to look to have Mr. McKinnon, Mr. Cupper, and Mr. DiMartino join us as well.
okay, we'll be switching over to a different Zoom channel. That said, can I entertain a motion to close the public portion of our meeting tonight?
So moved.
First and seconded. We'll give Cindy credit for that so she can get on the docket.
We'll give it to you.
All those in
Thank you so
favor?
much.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Very good. All right.
Wasn't sure.
Talk to you in a few minutes, Dan and Cindy.
All right.